Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. Everybody guys, our draft breakdown here for APA Season 3, the American Pokemon Association, a brand new draft league format that I just joined for this season. I'm really excited. I'm going to be breaking down the draft that I did. If you guys didn't see the live draft stream, I did stream the live draft just a little bit ago, the same day that this video is going up. But if you didn't have time to see that, you can see my breakdown, what I picked, why I picked it, and so on and so forth. Pretty straightforward stuff there. I'm really excited to break down this team, though. You guys might be like, aDrive, what's the APA? What are you doing? Well, the APA is a new battle league that actually I kind of knew a few of the people from before, from other leagues, and I'd known a few of the coaches from just knowing them from the aDrive stream and things like that. And basically, like, I was looking for a new league because NPA is starting up pretty soon and I'm not doing GBA, so I was like, P4G just ended, WBE just ended. I'm like, you know what, I kind of want to do 2 leagues. That way I have matches for you guys on Saturday and on Sunday. I've always really liked doing 2 leagues when it's not stressful, and this is kind of like a I think it's pretty competitive, but more fun type league, I think, too. It's not like, it shouldn't be super duper competitive, so we should be able to have a good time with that. So I'm really excited there. So yeah, I drafted a new team, and I'm gonna break down my picks, why I picked what I picked, and so on and so forth. I do have to say though, you guys gotta bear with me. I'm taking some medication right now for my arm. I have some like tendonitis and stuff, and it's a steroid, so it makes me like super thirsty. So if I have to stop to drink, bear with me. But yeah, it's weird. I just started taking it just to have like inflammation in my arm. It's not a big deal, but just trying to get that taken care of. So anyway, turns out the draft order was randomized. There's basically 16 teams in the league. You basically, go snake style draft like always. It's a tiering format like I've done in the past, where each team picks a Mega Evolution, a Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, another Tier 3, a Tier 4, Tier 5, and then you get 4 free slots, which has a certain point allocation to them, 400 points, and you can kind of juggle those points around. So basically, if you get like a lower tier Mega, it gives you more points towards your free total. So for example, grabbing something like Mega Abomasnow, which is considered really bad, will give you 80 free points. So instead of having 400 points, you get 480 points for 4 picks, which opens up the door to get like better Pokemon overall. So when I look at these drafts, I think of trying to get the best bang for my buck. I look for value picks. I always look for value picks. I look for Pokemon that I think are potentially improperly tiered, or that I think could really function well, and give a lot of value, especially when it comes to Megas. I've had a history of picking Megas, like lower tier Megas, generally speaking, because I tend to think that they give more value, because you have to get a Mega anyway, and like once the first like 4 or 5 Megas that I like are gone, I tend to be a little bit more flexible on what I grab. So anyway, draft order was randomized, and it turned out that I got the first pick overall, and that's a lot of stress. The first pick overall, I wouldn't necessarily say I'd want the first pick overall generally, because I'm pretty content grabbing like middle of the line first round picks, but I got the first pick overall, which means I picked, and then I didn't pick again until like 30 something picks later. So we had to really make that first pick count, which was tricky. It was tricky. So just to kind of give you an idea of kind of where my headspace was at, I was looking at a couple different Pokemon. Specifically, I was looking at like Blacephalon, because I feel like that thing is going to be a really good wall breaker. Kyurem Black was another one that I was looking at. And then I kind of was debating on some different Mega Evolutions, but the only Mega that I really felt to me was worth the first pick overall was probably something like a Mega Lopunny maybe, but I didn't really feel that too strongly. But then I really have this belief that steel type Pokemon, really good steel type Pokemon, are super duper important when it comes to the draft league format. So I decided to go with the steel type for my first overall pick, and I've always wanted Jirachi, man. I've always wanted Jirachi. And just a little insight, the NPA draft hasn't started, but it's starting soon, and I have the first pick in that draft as well, because I was the champion last season. So I had 2 first round picks, so I kind of wanted to not like, I know what I'm getting in NPA. I've already decided that, so I didn't want to grab the same thing in both leagues. So just so you know there, I'm not going to tell you, because we haven't even picked it yet. It's not official. So anyway, first pick overall, I went with Celesteela, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I was really debating and going back and forth, and Jirachi looked so appealing to me. I felt like Jirachi was such a great pick. But to me, Jirachi is like, if you have like the 5th or 6th pick, you grab Jirachi. If you have the first overall pick, do you grab Jirachi? I don't know. I went with Celesteela, man, and I hate Celesteela's design. I hate it. I hate Celesteela's design, but again, I do believe that good steel types are super important in draft league format. There's only about 4 or 5 of them that don't have big 4x weaknesses, and Celesteela seemed like it was a good pick that was easy to build around. I mean, it only has a fire weakness and an electric weakness, 2 things that can be mitigated pretty quickly, and then otherwise, like, it's very strong. It's got Beast Boost, its ability. It's a very diverse move pool. It gets things from like Leech Seed to Air Slash to Superpower, to Zen Headbutt, to Earthquake, to Rock Slide, to Heavy Slam, to Flash Cannon, like physical, special, defensive, offensive, autotomize to set up your speed, weakness policy sets. There's just so much potential, I feel like, with Celesteela. I felt like as a first overall pick, I had to pick something that I felt was easy to build around, and that like no matter what was taken off the board next, I could find good complementary Pokemon to go with Celesteela. So with that being all said, I figured Celesteela was a really good tier 1 pick. And I'm confident in the fact that it's going to be a good Pokemon. I don't know if it's going to be like the league lead in kills or anything like that, but I designed this team in a way that Celesteela functions as a support Pokemon and can be a really good offensive Pokemon if I need to bring it that way. So I feel like it was a really solid pick. I don't regret it. I think it's going to be a great Pokemon, man. Stat-wise, it's phenomenal. It's just so bulky and so hard to take down, and it does have recovery with Leech Seed, which is really nice. And then like the only thing that's really good against Leech Seed is like grass types, and it obviously has Air Slash and Acrobatics, and just a lot of variety type moves, and I love coverage moves, especially when it comes to Draft League format. So this is a Pokemon that I know I can bring, you know, almost every week and have it really its impact known. So I'm really excited about that. So going into pick 2, I was debating between a couple different things. I was looking at value picks again. I had already picked my tier 1. There was a couple megas that I thought were kind of cool, but I decided at this point in the draft that I was going to hold off on my mega evolution for a little bit because I wanted to see how the board played out. I wanted to see how much value I can get out of my mega evolution, and I was looking at things like Altaria, but that got taken really quickly. Like I was thinking mega Altaria would be really cool to pair with Celesteela, but I'm trying to think of like what its weaknesses are, electric and fire, what pairs really nicely with that. And I was like, you know what, I think a dragon type makes a lot of sense, and there was a few specific dragons that I really liked, but I thought Kommo-o was just a phenomenal pick, especially in tier 2. I think it was undervalued in tier 2. I definitely think it's borderline tier 2, tier 1. But hopefully I can use it very effectively this season to prove that it should be tier 1. Now, Kommo-o in Sun and Moon was not very good, just generally speaking. And I do have to make this clear too. We draft, I want to specify that at the end of the draft, we pick 2 Z Crystal users on our team, and Omni Z Boosts are not allowed. So I can't use Clangorous Soul Blaze. So I didn't draft it for that. So just so you guys know. But Kommo-o got significant buffs in Ultra Sun and Moon, including a tremendous amount of move tutors. Learning the move Close Combat was a big deal because previously its best physical fighting move was Sky Uppercut. So now it gets Close Combat, now it gets Drain Punch, now it gets Stealth Rock. Very cool stuff there. It's got a great special attack stat, a great physical attack stat, really good natural bulk, and then I love the fact that it's got a couple different options to set up. It can run like a dual dance set, like an Autotomize Swords Dance set. It can run a Dragon Dance set. It can run an offensive, like, mixed set, which I think mixed breakers are phenomenal. Like you don't really, there's not a lot of good mixed attackers that can attack from both the physical and the special side, and this is one of them. You could run like Draco Meteor and then run Outrage or Close Combat and run like a mixed set, and that makes it very valuable in my opinion. It's got a decent speed tier at 85, and I usually tend to stay away from 4x weaknesses because they are a little tricky to work with in Draft League format, but 4x weakness to Fairy isn't as bad because you can't have Hidden Power Fairy. So having that 4x weakness to Fairy isn't a big deal, and the typing really complemented well here, Celesteela Kommo, because Kommo's weaknesses are going to be something like, you know, Flying and Psychic and Fairy and Dragon, and Celesteela is really going to cover all of those, which I've really liked. And then of course Celesteela is, you know, Electric and Fire type weaknesses covered very nicely by Kommo-o. So I felt like that was a really good combination. It gave me a potential wall breaker, gave me a setup sweeper, and a potential scarfer in some ways. And again, a Stealth Rock user, which I think is always important, even though I don't think he's going to be brought Stealth Rock much. But again, the value of Kommo-o in tier 2 to me was just way too high to pass up. So I really feel like it's going to be a good Pokemon. And as bad as it was last year, I think it's going to be really good this year. It's got the elemental punches and things like that now through move tutors, and that has really enhanced its value. And again, Close Combat was just a big deal. I mean, this thing hits really hard with Close Combat and like a Dragon Dance up. So anyway, going into pick 3, kind of same dilemma, trying to figure out what I can take to go with these Pokemon. And normally people try to talk about Fairy Dragon Steel cores and Fire Water Grass cores. So Fairy Dragon Steel is what I'm working towards here. And I was looking at the Fairy types, and at this point I could jump into tier 1 and grab a Fairy type like a Azumarill, which would really kind of inhibit my point total and really affect the rest of my draft, because I already filled my tier 1 requirements, so I can grab a Azumarill to fill another tier 1, but then that really impacts my draft and restricts my draft later on, and I did not want that in this case. I wanted to really keep my draft as open as possible to try to get the Pokemon I wanted early rounds, and then whatever the stragglers were that were good late rounds, I could kind of form like a pretty cool core at the end, with better knowledge of what I have left on the board and what I have left point-wise, if that makes sense. And you'll see the last 3 or 4 rounds, I made some really cool picks that I kind of waited and waited and waited on it, and I think it really, I was rewarded for that. So, you know, going into the next pick here, I decided to go Mimikyu. Mimikyu was ranked in tier 2. The only other fairy that I really liked in tier 2 was Florges, and Florges is really passive. So, I mean, it's relatively strong, but it's pretty passive and generally. And Mimikyu is a unique Pokemon in the fact that it has its disguise ability, and as a tier 2 I thought that was pretty valuable. It can always take one hit, which is really nice. It's got a great typing, Fairy and Ghost obviously, pairing really nicely together offensively, you know, hitting dark types really well with Play Rough and stuff like that. I saw a lot of Z-move potential with Mimikyu, and the fact that it pretty much can get a free Swords Dance up, I think is pretty valuable, and it has priority as well. So there was a lot of factors that went into me choosing Mimikyu, but it's a Pokemon that I wanted to try, and I felt like it's a unique Pokemon, and stat-wise it doesn't look that scary. When you factor in the fact that it can always take one hit and always get a free Swords Dance up, it can serve as a spin blocker again to stop Rapid Spin, which I thought was pretty cool, and its stab combination with Ghost and Fairy is a really, really good combo. I thought that was pretty unique, and I really liked the utility aspect as well, Trick Room options and things like Will-O-Wisp and stuff like that. So I finished my Fairy Dragon Steel Core. Not the greatest Fairy Dragon Steel Core in the world, but I really like the individual pieces. I think Celesteela, Kommo-o, Mimikyu, they really can blend well together, and I think that they're going to be really unique. And I drafted, like I said, a pretty different team. I'm excited about it though. I think I got really good synergy as we went along the draft. So going into the next round, we had to kind of make some tough decisions, and this really starts to send the direction of the draft, and I decided to go with the powerhouse that is Nidoking. Nidoqueen went earlier in the round, I think at the beginning of the round, so I didn't really have an option to go that route, but I kind of wanted Nidoking anyway. Speed stat is the same as Kommo-o's, but it's poison and ground type. Ground types are always awesome, so I'm helping out with that electric weakness that Celesteela has. I've got a poison type that can really destroy some fairy Pokemon, which I love as well. And if you've ever faced against Nidoking in Draft League format, it is terrifying. For a round 4 pick, this thing will make you dedicate like 2 or 3 Pokemon to it, because it can run every coverage option, and with Life Orb and Sheer Force boosting its attacks, it is very strong. I also love the fact that, again, a mixed attacker. It could be a physical attacker, it could be a special attacker, it can be mixed. It also gives me a Toxic Spikes and Stealth Rock option as well, which I really love how that kind of coincides with Mimikyu, obviously being a spin blocker, so the Toxic Spikes options are really nice. It's a good Scarfer as well. I like it as a Life Orb Sheer Force user, but it is a decent Scarfer, and it can run Poison Point too, which is, you know, like a defensive set to stop U-turn and stuff. So it's not that bad of an idea going that route. So and again, it was in tier 3, so looking at the tier 3 Pokemon, like ALOLA and Marowak was on my radar, because I really felt like that would pair nicely with Celesteela, but after I grabbed Mimikyu, that wasn't really an option anymore. And there was things like Chandelure that I was like, yo, this thing could be really cool, but I held off on some of those, and I decided to give Nidoking, just because, to me, Nidoking could easily be valued as a tier 2. So again, just kind of going with those picks that I felt were valuable and maybe underappreciated. Not to say they were improperly tiered, but like it depends. Like, you can have someone use Nidoking and do nothing with it, and then you can have someone lead the lead in kills with Nidoking because it's so good. So it really just depends. But I felt like it was a really good Pokemon, and as someone who's used Nidoqueen effectively, I feel like King will be fun, and that extra speed really helps, and it's stronger too. So using it more offensively instead of defensively is going to be pretty fun and pretty sweet. So going into round 5, this was a pick that I made because I wanted it, not because I thought it was the best for the team, but I went with Araquanid, also in tier 3. Araquanid got a huge buff in getting Sticky Web and Ultra Sun and Moon. I think tier 3 is relatively appropriate for it. However, I do think that tier 2 could also be appropriate for it. It's hard to say, but Araquanid is so strong with Liquidation and its ability Water Bubble that it's really a force to be reckoned with, but it's really slow. And even though it's kind of bulky, it doesn't really pair with Sticky Web, in the fact that, like, yeah, it can set it, but it's really slow. But either way, I loved Araquanid here in tier 3, and getting it in round 5, I wanted it. I would have valued it in like a first 3-round pick, because I just think it can be really good. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I just love this Pokemon. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. It's probably my second favorite Pokemon, Ultra Sun and Moon. I love Vikavolt, but Araquanid's darn close, dude. This thing is awesome. But again, Liquidation and even special offensive with Scald and stuff is really cool. It's got a fire resistance with its ability, which is nice. It does give me an electric weakness, but I wasn't too worried about that. It gives me a ground resistance for Nidoking, things like that. And again, it hits so hard with Liquidation, and it has the move slot for Sticky Web every time. So this is just one of those options that really makes my opponent worry about Sticky Web, because Mimikyu again can spin block and pretty safely spin block. It's one of the best spin blockers in the game, and its relatively low speed is definitely appreciated with the Sticky Web. Same with Nidoking, same with Kommo-o, both of them really appreciate the Sticky Web. So I thought this was an awesome pick here in round 5. And again, I picked it more because I wanted it rather than I thought it was best for the team, but I don't have any regrets. I think it's a great Pokemon, and I think it'll be really fun to use, especially like in preparation. My opponents are going to have headaches trying to deal with, how do I deal with a Sticky Web Araquanid? I have to bring a defog user and so on and so forth, so I really think that was cool. Jumping into round 6, I wanted to get another Stealth Rock user. I was looking at tier 2. I was thinking about the grass types that were available. I didn't have a Psychic type yet, and I felt like Celebi was a pretty unique pick. I don't necessarily think Celebi's like amazing, but I think it's an okay Pokemon, like an average above average Pokemon. It's got great base stats, obviously, great utility. It's got a lot of potential in terms of what it can run. Thunder Wave, Stealth Rock, it can be offensive, it can set up, it can agility pass, it can do a lot of different things. U-turn as well, it can set up. It's got a lot of potential, and again, I wanted another Stealth Rock user. I already had 2 with Kommo-o and Nidoking, but those are more offensive Pokemon. I felt like Celebi gives me like a defensive type Stealth Rock user, and can give me some U-turn support, which I didn't have yet, and it gave me a good grass type, like a relatively good grass type Pokemon. So I felt like Celebi was a pretty cool pick. I'm not like super sold on it. I'm not sitting here like, yo, Celebi's about to be the best thing ever. I have no idea. I've never used Celebi, but like on paper, it looks pretty good, and I think it fits the mold of this team relatively well. So it also gave me something to hit that base 100 speed tier, which I think is pretty important, because at this point in time, my team is pretty slow, with Celebi being my fastest thing. So I got Celebi at 100, Mimikyu at 96, Nidoking and Kommo-o at 85, Celesteela hits like 61, and the Araquanid's like 40. So relatively slow team at this point, but I do kind of fix that up a little bit here going into round 7 as I grab Lycanroc Dusk, which was ranked in tier 3, and that to me is super valuable. This thing is awesome. 110 base speed, priority, one of the best priority moves in the game, in a Cell Rock. Rock type priority move. It gets Stealth Rocks, got a lot of utility with like Focus Sash, Counter Sash, which I think is kind of cool. But its main promise is the fact that it has Strong Jaw, or Tough Claws. I think I said Strong Jaw, but it's Tough Claws. And Tough Claws is gonna boost its like contact physical moves, and it has a move like Drill Run, so it's got a really good ground type move. It's obviously a Stone Edge and a Cell Rock. It gets Crunch and the Elemental Fangs, which is really good, boosted by Tough Claws as well. So this thing is a monster, dude. It's got a really good attack stat, and it's got some really good coverage options, and it can really put in the work, man. I think this thing is gonna be insane. The fact that I got it round 7, I was pretty stoked. I think Lycanroc Dusk is gonna be really good. I may be overestimating it, but rock type Pokemon are really good in Draft League format, because they only have a few resistances like ground, so that makes them really good. And most teams only have 1 ground, 1 fighting type, if that. And Lycanroc Dusk can really rip through those Pokemon, you know what I mean? It can really put in some work against everything else, and because of its speed stat, it makes it so good. And under Sticky Webs, that's even scarier. So I thought this was a phenomenal pick. I was really excited about grabbing it in round 7, and I felt like just the value I got out of it in terms of a round 7 pick was awesome. So anyway, kind of give you guys a little backstory. Here I am sitting in this draft part, and I have 4 picks left. I haven't grabbed my Mega yet, and at this point, I'm configuring. I'm thinking in my head, okay, what are the pieces that I put together with these last 4 picks that I don't think are gonna get taken, that I can create the best team possible? And this was an interesting situation. So I'm looking at my team. I don't have a fire type. I don't have a dark type. 2 things that I think are pretty important. I don't have I don't have well, I do have a water type, but I think I could get a better one. I have Stealth Rock relatively covered. I don't have a Rapid Spinner, and I need my Mega still. So kind of looking at the Mega board, I could have taken a couple different routes here. I could have went with something like a Mega Gyarados and like really had something super powerful there, or I can go with like a lower tier Mega and also grab some more bulk to the team, because I was looking at the team and I'm like, man, I have Celesteela and I have some decent bulky Pokemon, but no like real walls, and I love playing with walls. So I'm like, I was like really torn here, and I'm configuring my point total, because at this point, again, I haven't taken a Mega. I still have some free points. Mimikyu is tier 2, so that was 240, so I had 60 free points at this point in time, and I'm thinking, all right, if I grab a tier 3 Mega Evolution, that'll give me another 60 points, which gives me an opportunity to grab another tier 2 Pokemon as my last free slot. So I have to get a tier 4, a tier 5, and then I have to get a Mega and a free. And rather than getting a tier 4 Pokemon, which, if you know the tier 4 Pokemon, I mean, you get things like Delphox, and maybe that would have been an option, and I could have gotten a better Mega. But to me, I was like, I can get a really good tier 2 a really good Mega that's undervalued, and then build a cool team around that. So to me, I think I hit the nail right on the head. So round 8, I grabbed Cresselia. I committed to this plan right here at this moment in time. This was not my plan going into the draft. These last 4 picks were not my plan going in the draft, but it just worked out at the end that it was sitting there and I'm like, you know what? No one else is going to take this. I have a really good opportunity here. So I committed to this plan with Cresselia. And the second I picked Cresselia, that locked me into either Mega Houndoom, Mega Glalie, Mega Banette, or a really bad Mega like Camerupt, Steelix, Audino, or Abomasnow. But at this point, I think the way the draft was spaced out, I was pretty safe in my plan. You might know where I'm headed here. But Cresselia, getting Cresselia in round 8, dude. This thing, I drafted it in round 2 before to give you an idea. This thing is a monster. It is so difficult to take down. People hate it. People don't, like, a lot of leagues don't even like it, like don't even want to allow it. I don't think it's overpowered by any stretch of the imagination, but it's very good, dude. It's got incredible bulk, great team support. It's a great screen setter, one of the best screen setters in the game. It's got Levitate, which is awesome as well, and it's a pure Psychic type, so it doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, and even those weaknesses, you really have to hit this thing hard to even dent it, because it's just so bulky. It is so bulky, dude. Not to mention the team support with Lunar Dance, and again, T-Waves, and then the Calm Mind options, man. Just setting up with Calm Mind, your opponent, if you find the right situation, substitute Calm Mind, it's over, dude. Like, it can't be touched. So this is just a phenomenal Pokemon, and getting it, like I said, in round 8, I'm like, I couldn't pass it up. I couldn't. Looking at what was available, like a Bisharp was really appealing to me at this point in time because of the option with Sticky Web, but I didn't want my team to rely on Sticky Web because I didn't feel like it needed it to function properly. So when I saw Cresselia there, I was like, it's too good to pass up, man. And the combination with Celesteela, Cresselia, that is a lot of bulk for someone to deal with. So I was pumped about this. Definitely pumped about it. So round 9 again, and also I don't think I really mentioned this too much, but because I was the first pick overall, I had wheel picks too, which allowed me to plan my draft a little better. So like when it came to grabbing Cresselia, I actually got to pick Cresselia and another Pokemon back to back. I never really mentioned that, but like Kommo-o, Mimikyu were back to back. So like every one of my picks were like together after Celesteela. So like Nidoking, Araquanid, Celebi, Lycanroc. So I was able to like put them together. I didn't mention that, but something worth noting. So then kind of the next pick I went with was Torkoal, and again, this really kind of tells you the direction we're headed here. Torkoal in tier 4, I thought it was a cool Pokemon, gave me another defensive Pokemon, another Stealth Rock setter, gave me Rapid Spin options, which I previously didn't have, and it sets the sun. And I think Weather is a unique approach to Draft League. I didn't want to draft a team that was relying on Weather, but I thought it was a really cool element to kind of integrate, and I'm really stoked about it, man. I think Torkoal, even if Torkoal's only job is to have Heat Rock, set the sun, and get Stealth Rocks up every game and then die, that does its job, because the Mega Pokemon I picked is going to very much so appreciate that. I'm really excited about Torkoal again. It's just a really bulky fire type. It does have a Stealth Rock weakness, which is a bit annoying, but up to this point, my only weaknesses to Stealth Rock were Araquanid and Torkoal. So I didn't really think it was that big of a deal. I have a couple of resistances with you know, Nidoking and Kommo-o and stuff too. So going in around 10, I had to get a tier 5 Pokemon. I went with Lanturn. I really thought Lanturn was a cool pick. It's got a water immunity and electric immunity, which I thought was really nice, especially when it comes to things like Celesteela. It's got a fire resistance for Celesteela. I just felt like it really matched well with Celesteela. And it gives me a second water option if I don't want to bring Araquanid, because it's more of a team supporting bulky option. Give me a Volt Switch or two, which I previously didn't have. So my man Kyle A and the My Man Dom fans has really preached the awesomeness of Lanturn in WBE. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to trust in my man Kyle A. I'm going to go with Lanturn and rock with that. And then going into our final pick here, it's Mega Houndoom, baby, and Mega Houndoom is so solid, dude. So Mega Houndoom was ranked as a tier 3 Mega, which in some ways you can say is undervalued. It's one of those Pokemon that people, like, I think it's under the radar. Kelly really loves Mega Houndoom. The problem is Mega Houndoom's ability is Solar Power, which is basically giving it a choice specs in the sun at the cost of 1/8 of your health. So it gives it a huge special attack boost in the sun, but you have to have sun with it. So that's where Torkoal comes in. And when you look at this thing's stats, 140 special attack stat is really good. You pair that with the sun and the solar power boost, that means your fire type moves are first of all being stab boosted, they're being boosted by the sun, and then they're being solar power boosted. You guys, let me tell you how strong a Fire Blast or a Flamethrower coming from this thing is. Not to mention it's a fire immunity when it switches in before Mega Evolution with Flash Fire, which I think is pretty cool. So that helps a little bit too. I've got kind of another thing to help there with Celesteela. It's a Dark type, which I didn't have previously. And you guys saw what I did with Mega Absol, a fast Dark type Pokemon. I really put in some work with that thing in WBE. I actually led the league in kills with it. I think Mega Houndoom could be my next Mega Absol. We'll see. I really feel good about it though. It's got okay bulk, not anything crazy, but the 115 base speed is really nice. And again, solar power, having this thing in the sun is scary, dude. It is very scary. Sun boosted Mega Houndoom is no joke. And again, it doesn't, and I don't even have to bring the sun. I could bring Torkoal, or not bring Torkoal and just bring Mega Houndoom, or I could bring something like Cresselia with the sun and really mess with my opponent's strategy. So we got a lot of options there on this team, and I'm really hyped about it. I think it's a solid team, man. Every season you go into the draft, and like midway through this draft, I was like, man, am I doing right? But when I finally made that last pick for Mega Houndoom, I was like, nah, I nailed it. I nailed it. And this is the second time in a row where I drafted my Mega like last round, basically. Absolutely, I think I grabbed second to last, but it didn't really matter because no one else was going to take a Mega at that point. They were all taken, or everyone else already required that, so, or filled that requirement. So yeah, again, second time I'm picking Mega at the end, and I'm really hyped about it, man. I think Mega Houndoom's going to be sick, dude. This thing is so strong, man. It's so strong, and it just hits really hard. And in the sun, dude, the Calyx, it's scary. It is scary looking at this thing in the sun. There's no doubt about that. So that's gonna be my team there, guys. Really excited about it. I do need to work on some nicknames and stuff like that. So if you guys have any suggestions for nicknames, let me know. I know Araquanid's gonna be Scuba Bug, and I have to go through and kind of figure out the rest. I'm not even really sure what I'm gonna do for nicknames or anything, but let me know there. Matches are gonna start next weekend, and let me know what you thought of the team is. I hope you enjoyed the draft. I hope you enjoyed my draft breakdown. Thank you guys so much for watching. Rampardos are ready to head smash again. NPA draft is gonna be coming up in probably a month or so, a couple more weeks. We haven't started yet, but we're getting there. And that's that, man. Thank you for watching. My name is Dan. I also go by aDrive, and I'm gonna catch you guys next time. Peace. Thanks so much for checking out my last video. If you like that one, you'll definitely like this one. And be sure to subscribe for more as I post Pokemon videos every single day.